what are your tips for somebody who's going to join their PhD soon, or to the new PhD students?
Yeah. I think don't feel like a failure when you're making mistakes. They are really important to your progress, and they actually teach you so much. There's experiments that I've messed up horrifically, and then I've learned so much more from that than when I've had an experiment go right 3 or 4 times, and on the 4th time it hasn't worked. But I'm like, oh, maybe I don't understand this enough to really start problem solving it. Whereas when it goes wrong initially, I'm problem solving absolutely everything possible. So they can be really valuable moments and teaching moments for yourself. They're also not just important for like essentially your PhD, but they're really important for your own personal growth. There's so much you can learn from them. You're not just building your lab skills at this point. You'll be building your problem solving skills as you go along, and your determination and your motivation to keep yourself at the problem. And sometimes it is just, I need to step away from this, do a bit of reading or do something else. And then that clear mind, that clarity really helps you. So sometimes it's actually more effective to step away from the problem, take a day off. I know when everything's not working and you've got no results and everyone else is walking in with piles of data, you want to run into the lab. I did that, and I would be in there long hours. All it did was give me more useless experiments that had gone wrong, and I probably made more mistakes because I was tired and stressed. Whereas when I do that now, I just go, I'm not coming in tomorrow. I take the day off. I'm so much more refreshed when I come back in, and I'm so much more competent when I come back in, which is really the essential part there. So yeah, just figure out what's gone wrong, why, and really learn from that situation, I think would be my advice.
Yeah, and this reminds me of we often hear this, right? Like great ideas come when you're relaxing, especially like we hear about the eureka moment of Archimedes. So all these things truly they come from when we are in that relaxed space. That's so true. In fact, I read about somebody who was trying to solve a mathematical equation, and he could not do it for a very long time, and then he left everything and went for a vacation, and he was on the beach, and at that point of time he somehow remembered how to solve that equation. So you're so right on this, is that taking enough breaks, taking enough pause is so much needed, but it is so hard to take.
It feels like you're doing the opposite to progress and by taking those breaks, but actually you're making more progress by giving yourself that space, I think.
Yeah, a very relevant point here. Okay, so what should be kept in mind while applying for a PhD position?
I think you really need to think about the length of the PhD, because you're committing to this project for such a long period. And I think if you're interested in that research and love lab work, that makes the experience a whole lot easier for you, and it makes the motivation easier. But I would look at different programs. I wouldn't, even if you think you found the perfect PhD, look at a few others, see what else is out there. Really speak to those other PhD students, postdocs in the lab you're interested in. Speak to your supervisor. I personally think having a good relationship with your supervisor is really important. I don't know. I honestly wouldn't be doing as well as I am without the support of my supervisors. They've been essential to everything I've been doing. So for me to have a supervisor that was very distant, not very supportive, that I couldn't come to, I would really struggle with that. Everyone has a different fit that they like to work with. So it's making sure that you and your supervisor fit in quite a nice way, as well as the rest of the lab. But also look at the university, its location, and the social things to do as well, because you aren't just there to work, you're there for a life. You need to think about all aspects of your life. I think that's really important. You could find the perfect supervisor, and it could be somewhere you absolutely hate. Let's say you absolutely love the sunshine and you're in this little freezing cold place constantly that's always raining. You're not mentally going to be happy in that. So you won't perform your best, really. I think you need to think about all aspects when going into it. It's a big commitment.
I really love that point there, because we often forget this, especially when we are trying to get a position from a long time. Maybe it's 1 year, 2 year. We just want to get somewhere. And those things don't, I mean, during those times we don't think about if about the geographical aspects and also about our mental well-being, whereas this is something that's going to affect literally everything. So yeah, a very relevant point. And I think if people are watching this one, whoever is watching it, please do consider this if you are a prospective PhD student or even a master student who is planning to study abroad. Make sure that you consider these aspects along with the degree, the university, or other criterias. Yeah. Okay. So, what's one PhD myth that you want to discuss about in today's show?
A very interesting question.
Thanks.
I think it'd be for me that you need to be a genius to do a PhD. Your PhD isn't an IQ test. It is a research project. It's more of a journey, to be honest. I feel like the more you learn, you realize you know much less than you thought you did. As you keep learning, you realize there's so much more to learn. Like, I don't really know anything, which I wouldn't let that put you off. It's quite a natural thing to realize. But you've already demonstrated you're intelligent through your studies and that you're capable. So it's a journey. You really don't need this genius IQ level. That's not what a PhD is. Really isn't.
I completely agree. And I think the PhD demands different task capabilities like organization, time management, self-confidence, presentation skills. I mean, there are so many, if you would name, like teaching skills, multiple of those. So yeah, we are not just like intellectuals there, but we have different roles to play, like educator, sometimes supervisor, because we're supervising master students. Yeah, multiple roles as a student also, because we're learning still. So
yeah.
All right. So if given a chance again, would you decide to do a PhD again?
Yeah. In all honesty, it generally will depend what day you ask me. Currently, 100% yes, would do it again. But I'm sure if I've had a week or two where everything's not working, I would definitely be saying no. But in general, yes, I've learned so much, not just gaining the lab skills I have, which have definitely improved so much, but just my interpersonal skills, all my soft skills, they've all increased so much. My PhD really is essential to the next chapter of my life. And even though it's been an emotional roller coaster, and it really has, the confidence that I've gained, the support I've gained, and all these other skills that have prepared me, I guess, to go into the workplace, even if that means leaving the lab, I'm still prepared to do that. And it's really developed me to that point where I'm comfortable going, yeah, I'm going to entirely change fields, move entirely off of what I've been doing for the last, I guess, 8 years and training towards, and go, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm confident enough to be like, yeah, I'm absolutely fine doing that. So yeah, I would go back and do it again from everything I've built. And I think more my own personal growth journey that's been really important that I don't think I'd have got without doing my PhD, to be honest.
This is so great. Because often we hear the reverse, that people towards the end of their PhD are miserable. And I guess maybe because you planned it pretty well and you had a positive outlook for it. Because it is a difficult journey, I mean, to be honest, but maybe the way you approached it was different, so that the outcome of it is different for you. Because I've met some people who didn't enjoy the journey, and we often commit a mistake of not looking it as a journey, but in terms of also how many research articles we publish and just focusing only on the results. Probably that's why we miss out on the things that it can teach us. I can't comment much because I'm in the beginning, but you can say more, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, at the beginning, I think it was determination to show people that I was capable of doing it, and probably partly myself just being I was capable probably wasn't the best reason to stay, just to be like, oh, I can do this, because at the time I didn't really want to be there. But it was just, I don't want everyone to be right that I can't do this. Isn't always the best reason to stay. But thankfully, it's kind of turned around. And what I actually do is I make little notes of like when things have gone well. I actually have a little memos pad in my phone of like things that have gone well or achievements I've made throughout my PhD. Some of them are most of them are nothing to do with the lab. But they just, if I'm having a bad day, I can look at them and be like, yeah, you know, we've done this. And I've got a lot of things that they've not been good days, but I've got more positive outcomes, I think. Even if it's an experiment hasn't worked, you can still learn something from that a lot of the time.
True. Yeah. And how did you start making these? I'm just curious because I recently actually shared this technique that I use on my journal. So I have listed the number of days of the month, and each day I write like a daily highlight. So and it differs. So it could be professional or personal, and that really helps me to see how my month went. So did I actually do something constructive? And it's funny because each day there is one or the other thing that it could be a simple thing, a very tiny achievement, but it does make a difference. So I was just curious, did you read about this or did it just come to you like that? How was it that you started making these?
I think it was sort of at the beginning of my third year. I kind of made a list of things that I wanted to achieve for the whole year. Some of them were lab work based, others were science communication based, and others were sports based. So they weren't really to do with my PhD at all. And then I like to tick those off, but I split them up rather than going, this is the entire year, this is what I want to do. I then put some in for January, some for February, and I just started ticking these off and like making little notes to myself. So I guess it just kind of happened by accident. But yeah.
That's good. It's just like telling yourself you have achieved. It's like internal validation rather than external validation. And I think it is something that really helps you to build your self-confidence because you're not relying for others to tell you that you're doing a good job, but you're telling yourself that you're doing good. And it's not just about big things. It's also about simple things, little things in life.
I think the smaller things are more important to keep ticking off because the bigger things take so long to get to. The time it takes you to get there, any little setback can make it feel like it's so far away. But if you just start ticking off those little things, you feel so productive all the time. You're like, oh, I'm doing so well. So it's a really nice feeling.
Yeah, I mean, we can term it as illusion, I would say. But still, if it is helping you to succeed and stay motivated, why not? I mean, there's no right or wrong here, I would say. So, yeah. Good that you shared that with us. I hope like some of us can try experimenting this as well. And I mean, there's no harm trying new activities. Yeah. Okay. So my next question to you is that what are the advantages and disadvantages of doing a PhD according to you?
Okay. I think an advantage is you get to add knowledge to your chosen field and you get to learn so much about something so specific in that research. It's really rewarding. So there's not really that many people that will know as much as you do, which is a really weird thing to think about because you'll see your friends, you'll have a lot of PhD friends, but actually when it comes to your own project, they're not going to know anywhere near as much as you about it. But you forget that because they were also someone on the same level as you, you're just like, oh yeah, so you know when you did, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. And you're like, oh. And it's a bit of a weird feeling, but it's really nice to, I guess it's quite special that you know so much about that. I'd say a disadvantage is that it is a really big commitment and that's really challenging, especially with the motivation, because a lot of it is keeping yourself motivated, especially in times when it feels like your whole project is failing and things aren't working. Yeah, I'm going to finish on one more advantage though, because I don't like finishing on a downer. So I think another advantage will be the people that you get to meet and the networking that's available to you. So the way that we've met on Twitter, we haven't sort of met in person, we've not had to work together to get that, but our network has been open to each other, which is really, it's a worldwide network that we have, and that's really special.
True. Yeah, I also really enjoy the part of networking in science which is just amazing, because it's not just about what about the science that others are doing, but also the way they are approaching it, and also their qualities as a person, and as not just about science but also how they're presenting. There's so many things, how they
Yeah.
carry themselves, their own personalities, how they organize their labs, how they treat their students. Especially, I'm very much influenced by certain supervisors who are so kind to their PhD students, because we often hear about the other way around a situation. But there are also other supervisors who are so kind and helpful, and are ready to listen to the problems of their PhD students.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So, what is something non-academic that your PhD has taught you? I'm sure you told about this throughout the interview, which is also very interesting, that I didn't have to ask this question in particular. But still, maybe if you want to point out something more here.
Yeah, so I've had quite a few public speaking opportunities. Some have been in person and some to do with COVID have been online, which was an interesting spin on things.
Ah,
Um,
nice.
yeah, it was really fun. But it's given me the opportunity to talk to a variety of audiences, from experts in my area to children of 4 and 5 to the general public. So that really improved my communication skills, and how you communicate to each of these groups really changes. So it's been important that I can pick that up and change how I talk about the same thing to each of them. And it's made me really comfortable speaking, which I really enjoy.
Wow, that's interesting. I hope we can also host you for something else to discuss to the general audience if they're interested in. All
Yeah, of
right.
course.
So, according to you, what are the characteristics that a PhD student should have? I know there's nothing right or wrong here, or there's not like a like checklist of things that you should
Yeah.
check off to be a PhD student. But in your experience, who should do a PhD?
I would say it is always a very personal decision, rather than, oh, you fit the mold, you should definitely do one, because you could have all of the perfect skills to do one, but you're just not interested. So that's always got to be a big factor. I think generally it's important you're aware what a particular PhD entails, because they are time consuming and require determination. But I
Yeah.
also wouldn't be worried if people have said, oh, yeah, PhD students are organized, they're really good at time management, they're confident, they're great at speaking. You don't need to be that when you start.
Yes.
You're learning. You can come in without, your time management can be rubbish. That will change very quickly because you will have to learn to be on time, because otherwise someone's going to tell you it's no longer your time on the machine and they're taking it. And then your supervisor will be like, so why have you not got this data? And you're like, well. So a lot of it will come. It may not always be the easiest journey to pick up these skills going along. Some of them you'll pick up really easily. Some of them you'll have already. You might need a little bit of enhancement on them. Some will be the most painful thing for you to develop ever. I am always late. So, but for work, I can just about be on time. But for anything else in my daily life, no. But I've had to really make sure that when I say I'm using the machine at, say, 10 a.m., I'm on that machine at 10 a.m. so that I don't affect someone else's work. So for me, what that actually means is I book everything 15 minutes later than I actually want it, because I know I am bad at being on time. So that has worked really nicely for me, because I'm always on time for my machines now. So I just tell myself it's 15 minutes before. Yeah.
It's good that you're able to trick yourself that way, because somehow you know that you will be 15 minutes late, Yeah.
My phone's clock is 5 minutes fast, just to help push me along.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's interesting. I mean, this is funny, but when I grew up in our house, my parents used to keep all the clocks almost 5 minutes or 10 minutes ahead in almost all the rooms, so that as a kid you don't observe those clocks so much,
Yeah.
right? So you believe that it's going to be that time, but you're somehow also like 5 or 10 minutes ahead. So a good way of fooling kids, but when we become adults, we need to fool ourselves.
It's all right. In the panic of the moment, you'll forget that you've done it.
True. Yeah, that's true.